as I was listening to your remarks, Ms. Fenton, you're talking about bulk fuel, and it seems kind of like yesterday's solution, right? Storing fuel in a bulk tank, waiting to meet the need, so that you can power your diesel generator for your community. And everyone's thinking, well, that's old stuff. Our reality is that we still are relying on old stuff in many of our communities. I mentioned all that Igiugig is doing and pioneering with their RivGen system, and that little hydropower is amazing. What Coeric is looking to do with geothermal. So there is a great deal that goes on with innovation and pioneering, but for so many, it is still, the fuel that you consume is still your principal way to power your generator and to keep warm. When I visited many of the coastal communities following Typhoon Merbok, it was really impactful to be with families when they were crying not over the loss of their home, but over the loss of the contents of their freezers that they had spent all year fishing and harvesting, whether it was moose or whether it was caribou or it was the berries in the freezer. And that was where the real tragedy was. So when we think about reliability and what it means, every little increment that you can reduce your costs because you can purchase in greater bulk is appreciated. And the value that you've pointed out there to DOE with the technical and financial assistance that has allowed for these levels of security to be built are important on so many different levels. I want to ask hopefully a very quick question of you, Mr. Conrad, to start here. Dr. Ortiz has outlined the recommendations from the report that was just recently released. If this hearing was greater down the line, I might say, what of these recommendations have you put in place? But I recognize that it is all relatively fresh. But the statement was made that DOE agrees to the recommendations, and I'm assuming that that is a correct statement, and that you are that within the Department of Energy you are looking to implement those recommendations.
Yes, Chair Murkowski, that is correct. The department and the Loan Program Office has said that they agree with all the recommendations and they're beginning implementation immediately. Good,
good. I want to ask you about the Indian Country Energy and Infrastructure Working Group, ICWIG. This was previously facilitated by the National Conference of State Legislatures. We understand that contract was canceled in March of this year. Can you share specifically what DOE-IE is doing to keep ICWIG operating? I'm told that that it has been of good benefit to tribal citizens. So I want to know kind of your commitment to keeping these lines of communication open regarding ICWIG, the annual grantee convenings, which again allow for a lot of sharing that goes on.
Thank you for the question, Senator. We do support the Indian Country Energy Infrastructure Working Group, and we have taken on operations of it internally with federal staff for the moment.
Do you have the resources, the staff, and the funding?
We currently do have the staff and the funding. We would like to return to more of the contractor support because of the logistics of handling the meetings when they're in person is quite burdensome. The scheduling and the travel logistics.
That coming up as a
request for approval, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Dr. Ortiz, I want to talk a little bit more about this public finance pathway. You mentioned LPO is working on it. makes good sense. It allows tribes to utilize other revenues that they may have to repay their debts. It seems like a natural way to increase demand for the program without increasing risk to the federal government for default there. So can you share more about what other federal loan programs may already utilize this pathway, what benefits you see it can provide to prospective borrowers, and at the same time you're talking about that, highlight any increased risks for the federal government that you might see in utilizing this proposal?
Yes, the public financing pathway that LPO has proposed definitely has a lot of potential. It is similar to some programs run by Rural Development and Rural Utilities Service at USDA, and it allows bringing part of the work of due diligence or the underwriting process in-house. So it has the potential to reduce the review time for for energy projects by kind of scaling the level of review to the risk and size of the project, and also to reduce costs by reducing reliance on costly consultants. That said, in order to implement it, energy is going to have to invest in dedicated and trained staff who really know how to leverage public finance alternatives.
And you're saying they don't exist currently?
They do not currently exist. In terms of the risk to the federal government, it's not something we looked at specifically in our report, but it's worth thinking a little bit about the risk potentially to some tribal governments. In terms of the Department of Energy expects the public finance pathway to work by having projects being backed by tribal governments. This is essential. It recognizes tribal sovereignty. It is very important. Though, at the same time, many tribal governments do not have the kinds of revenue sources that allow them a lot of discretion in where to take funds from. So because they don't have the ability to levy municipal bonds or to increase tax revenue as easily as other states and localities might, it could pose some sort of potential risk to some tribes and their government operating revenue.
Thank you for that. Senator Schatz.